Ever wanted to play a shoot 'em up game where it's 5 sisters battling out for the man of their dreams to marry them? Well, then this bizarre setup sounds like it's right up your street. It's Sisters Royale, 5 Sisters Under Fire, and I played this and bought it on PlayStation 4. I'm a good fan of shoot 'em ups, although I'm terrible at them in general, but this was a really approachable and easy to pick up and understand game that surprised me with the different ways of how you could play it. The reason for this is that each of the 5 characters, the 5 sisters that you can play as, have a very different style of play because of the extras that are added on behind the initial shooting that you get to do. Each of the 5 characters has 3 different distinct attacks that they can have. You've got the first one, which is where you can shoot, and again each of those 5 characters have a different shooting out pattern, so one will go straight forward, one will slightly diverge out to the side, whereas another one would go in columns, for example. But shooting is only one piece of the pie. You can also go for what is more like a ground muso style attack as a secondary thing, because you're not flying in the air in this shoot 'em up, you're walking through stages, on automatic pilot it must be said, through very narrow corridors, but you're walking forward. And so one will have like some missile attacks, another one will have like a sword that you can then rotate and spin around with the analog stick. And each of those 5 sisters have very different secondary attacks that really change up how you want to play the game, because you can choose to ignore shooting altogether and just go straight in with these attacks, or you can ignore those attacks altogether and just stay with shooting. As you build up stuff, you also have bombs, but the bombs are all very different for each of the sisters too. They don't necessarily clear everything off the screen. They do it in a very specific way, and so one will kind of send out like weird ghouly ghosts to attack people, another one will be like a light nuclear bomb that will go off and kill people within a certain vicinity, or enemies, sorry. And again, each one is slightly different depending on the sister that you choose. One of the sisters doesn't even have a secondary attack, it's more of a defense and reflect mechanism, and that again changes the way how you attack a shoot 'em up, because you're out of arsenal of weapons that you can go for. You've only got the shooting and the defending of the blade and reflecting back, and it's just a different way of approaching things. And that's what keeps Sisters Royale very unique and fresh as you go through the different playthroughs of each of the different sisters. The game itself is quite short though. It's 5 stages. Admittedly, each stage has its own unique theme and unique gimmick for it. So there's an ice world where when you're walking on the ice, you will slip and slide, and you'll slip and slide into the bullets, and that will damage your health. You only have 3 health before you get a game over, but it's infinite continue, so you keep going and kind of smash your way through it if you're not very good at these games. The beauty between easy, normal and hard mode is that not only are there more enemies on screen and they're shooting out more things for you to avoid, but each of the sub-bosses and the final bosses of each of the levels, and final bosses in like a trio of bosses at the end of the game, have more attack patterns and variations on top of having more bullets to get through as well. So it really does exponentially rank up the difficulty quite consistently across the board. One of the things I do personally like about this, although it is just like everything personal taste, are the graphics, because they remind me of a bold and bright and beautiful PS2 era game. The reason why this works so well here is that one of the key mechanics for getting a high score is bullet grazing. So you have to stand really close to everything as it's going past you, and then that adds up to your multiplier, which then when you start killing and collecting all different other things elsewhere, for your ×8 actions that you'll be able to see on the side, you'll be able to rack up an astronomical score. But you have to constantly put yourself in harm's danger to do so. And whilst on the easy difficulties it's quite nimble and simple to get round a lot of the different patterns because you're given the time and breadth and space to do so, you're not going to get very good scores. So it's a risk versus reward kind of mechanic that you need to go for, and the more you put yourself in harm's danger, the more fun you'll have with this game. When a game is offering something like bullet grazing as one of its key gameplay mechanics, the controls need to be relatively sturdy in order to pull that off, and thankfully with Sisters Royale they are. The PS4 version is the one I played. It was smooth with its controls, there was no slowdown on the graphics or anything like that, and the frame rate kept up nice and standard and consistent when there was literally hundreds of gems flying around on the screen. So I found that a reassuring seal of approval from my perspective. The only kind of downsides that I would say, apart from the actual length of the game, is that once you're actually into the gameplay loop itself, aside from the plethora of options up front and the quirky story and the bold visual graphics, the actual gameplay of, say, like enemy placements coming down and like there's no power-ups to speak of or anything like that. The actual shooting side of stuff is very bog standard and straightforward. It's totally inoffensive, it does nothing particularly wrong, but it's relying on everything else to make itself stand out. And so I enjoyed my time playing Sisters Royale. I'll definitely be diving back into it again and again to try and get those S ranks for those last trophies that I'm desperate to get, especially the double S ones. But like online leaderboards are fine, but it won't necessarily make me come back time and time again. It's one of those games where it's slightly more style over substance, but the substance is not exactly terribly lacking. It's just not innovative or massively original, is all I'd say. So if you're looking for something cheap and cheerful, Sisters Royale is a good alternative, like mid-tier shoot 'em up. It's not going to change your world, but I did have a good laugh playing it. And the written reviews over on highplanegames.com. Cheers. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Plane Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.